A few weeks ago inside Better Husband Academy, we were on a live call. This was a group of men, guys who were doing the work, showing up, practicing, and we started talking about those conversations at home that should be simple but often become challenging. And the question that kept coming up from different men in different marriages was, how do we come back together quickly when that happens? How do we stop it from getting worse? One of the guys was talking about his wife bringing up something from the past, and he was working through it out loud, trying to figure out why it hit him so hard when he could tell she wasn't even trying to start a fight. And then he said something that stood out to me. He said, "It's not that she's criticizing me, but I feel criticized." Every man on that call knew exactly what he meant, not because they'd all been through the same situation, but because they'd all felt the same thing. That moment where someone you love says something honest, something that matters to her, and before you can even hear what it is, you've already decided what it means. She's disappointed, she's blaming you, she's saying you're not enough, except she didn't say any of that. You felt it, and you started responding to that feeling instead of to her. That's what this episode is about. Not criticism, not whether your wife is being unfair, but what happens inside you when a tough conversation shows up and you've already decided it's an attack before you've actually heard her. We're going to talk about that moment, why it happened so fast, what's actually underneath it, and what you can do differently. By the end of this episode, you're going to know the difference between being criticized and feeling criticized, and why that changes everything. You're also going to have real language you can use when you feel it happening, not a script, but words that let you stay honest and stay connected at the same time. And if you've already missed it, if the night already went sideways, you're going to know how to repair and lead the marriage back together. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling like you were being criticized and reacted from that place when what actually happened was something else altogether, this one's for you. Stick around, you don't want to miss it. Welcome to Better Husband, the podcast that helps you answer the question, how can I be a better husband? I'm Angelo Santiago, a men's marriage and relationship coach, and every week I bring you practical insights to help you strengthen your marriage and become the best husband you can be. So let me tell you what happened to the man from that live call. He and his wife were out to dinner, sitting across from each other at a restaurant. It was supposed to be a good night, and this was during a season where things already felt a little unsettled. A transition was coming, a big moment in their life together, and neither of them had fully landed on the other side of it yet. They were in one of those stretches where everything feels just a little bit more loaded than usual. Not bad, just tender. They'd been doing well. This wasn't a couple on the edge. This was a couple trying to stay close during a time that was asking a lot of both of them. And at some point during dinner, she brought up a conversation from the past, a moment between them that had never fully resolved. She wasn't picking a fight or trying to ruin the evening. She was concerned. She was scared. The transition ahead of them had stirred up an older hurt, one that she'd been carrying, and the fear of what was coming made that unresolved thing feel present again. She was trying to bring it to him, not as an accusation, but because it was sitting in her and she needed him to hear it. But he didn't hear fear. He heard criticism. His body tightened, his breathing changed, not in a way anyone else would notice, but he felt it. The moment she started talking, his guard went up. He didn't hear a woman who was afraid and needed him to be there for her. He heard a woman who was disappointed in him, who was saying he wasn't enough, who was bringing up a wound he thought they'd already moved past, and that meant to him that nothing he'd done had counted. And here's what's important. She didn't say any of that. He felt it. He translated what she was bringing into a verdict about him, about his adequacy, his track record, whether he was getting it right. And once that translation happened, he wasn't in the same conversation she was anymore. So he reacted, not to what she said, to what it felt like she meant. And the night fell apart. She left in the car, he walked home, adrenaline was still running, and if you've been that man walking by yourself after a night that fell apart, you know what that walk usually looks like. You're replaying every line, you're composing the text you want to send, trying to figure out what went wrong and what needs to happen next, but still reeling from the moment that threw you off and got you reactive. In the past, he probably would have sent every one of those texts, fired them off while his thoughts were still scattered, and then spent the rest of the night trying to figure out if sending them was the right move. This time, he didn't. He held them. He walked. And somewhere on that walk, after the adrenaline started coming down, something relaxed in him and clarity came. Not a huge revelation or not a change of heart, just a recognition that she hadn't attacked him. She'd been scared and he'd made the whole conversation about himself. And later, same night, same relationship, same topic, they tried the conversation again. He came back to her with a willingness to hear what she'd actually been trying to say, and this time he listened. He heard fear instead of accusation. He stayed in it instead of building his case against it. Same man, same woman, same unresolved thing, different response. That's what he was trying to name on the call. It wasn't that she was wrong to bring it up or that he handled it perfectly the second time, but that he translates hard conversations into criticism before he even knows it's happening. And the real work is learning to catch that translation, to hear what she's actually bringing instead of what his body tells him it means about him. It's not that she's criticizing me, but I feel criticized. That's the line. And that's the lane for this whole episode. Here's what most men don't realize in those moments. When your wife brings up a conversation you weren't expecting, an old wound, a tension in the relationship, a feeling she's been sitting with, she's usually not criticizing you. She's trying to bring you what's actually going on inside her. Fear, hurt, disappointment, a truth she hasn't known how to say or hasn't felt safe enough to say until now. And that's important to notice because what she's doing in that moment actually takes courage. She's choosing to bring it to you instead of carrying it alone. She's treating you like someone she trusts enough to be honest with. A lot of the time, what she's actually asking for isn't complicated. She wants to know you hear her, that the thing she's been carrying isn't going to get explained away or shut down. But here's what happens. Before she's even finished her first sentence, a part of you has already decided this is an attack. You've added accusation to what she said. You've translated her fear into criticism, her hurt into blame, her unresolved thing into a verdict about who you are as a husband. What she's feeling becomes evidence that you failed, not just in this moment, but at the whole thing. And you don't do it on purpose. It happens fast, faster than you can think. She says one thing, and by the time it lands in your head, it already sounds different. It's not, I'm scared about what's coming anymore. It's, you're not doing enough. It's not, this old thing still hurts anymore. It's, you never fixed it. Think about the last time your wife brought up a topic you weren't ready for. Not the last big fight. The last time she said a few words that made you tighten up. What did she actually say? And what did you actually hear? Most of the time, when men slow down and replay those moments, the gap between those two things is wider than they expected. That translation from what she said to what you heard is where most of the damage starts. Because once you've decided you're being criticized, you stop listening, you start defending, and now she's alone in the conversation, bringing a real concern to a man who can't hear it. From her side, she came to you with vulnerability, and instead of being heard and held, she watched you shut down or start explaining. Now, she doesn't just have the fear she walked in with, she also has the loneliness of bringing the truth to someone who couldn't receive it. This isn't rare. Most men do this. It doesn't mean you don't care or you're bad at listening. It means that your system is reacting to these conversations before you've had a chance to actually hear them. The question is why? So if she's not actually criticizing you, and a lot of the time she really isn't, why does it feel so much like she is? Because the reaction isn't coming from this moment. It's coming from an older one. Most men have a history with criticism that goes way further back than their marriage. Some of it is obvious. A parent who corrected everything, a coach who never said it was good enough, a childhood where being in trouble was the default feeling. Some of it is more subtle. Just years of absorbing the message that being a good man means getting it right, and getting it wrong means you're not the man you're expected to be. Most men carry some version of this. A critical parent, a demanding environment, years of performance pressure. It doesn't have to be intense to be real. The filter gets built gradually, and it runs in the background for your entire life. When your wife brings up a tough topic, it doesn't just land on what she said, it lands on top of every time you felt like you weren't measuring up. Every time criticism meant rejection. Every time getting it wrong felt dangerous. That's why the reaction is so fast. It's not that you're oversensitive, it's that the moment is hitting what was already there. A wound that got wired in long before you met her. And when that wound gets hit, your body doesn't distinguish between your wife asking a real question and your father telling you you'll never get it right. It just reacts. So when she says, I feel like we haven't been connected lately, you don't hear a woman who misses you. You hear a verdict. When she says, that thing from last year still bothers me, you don't hear someone processing an old hurt. You hear an accusation that you never fixed it. And when she says, can we talk? and her tone has a little weight in it, you're already bracing before the conversation even starts. The moment feels like criticism because you're hearing her through a filter that was shaped long before this marriage. And the filter tells you the same thing every time. Here it comes. She's figured out I'm not enough. Whatever I say next is wrong. That's not what's actually happening, but it's what it feels like. And until you can see that the reaction is older than the moment, you'll keep responding to the wrong conversation. Here's where it all starts to go wrong for most men. Feeling criticized isn't the problem. The problem is what you do next. Because once you've decided you're under attack, you don't just sit there. You start building protection. And that protection sounds different for every man, but the structure is almost always the same. Some men go to defense. They explain, they correct her facts, her timeline, her wording. That's not what happened. I already apologized for that, or you're not remembering it right. They're not trying to be cruel. They're trying to survive the feeling. If they can prove the accusation wrong, maybe the feeling will stop. Now, some men go quiet. They shut down, pull back, go cold because everything inside them just got loud and they don't trust what's going to come out of their mouth. So they leave, not always physically, but emotionally. They're sitting right there and they're already gone. And some men, they build a counter argument. They start telling, what about everything I've done? What about this whole week I showed up? And she's bringing up something from 6 months ago at dinner? They're not listening anymore. They're preparing a rebuttal. And some men do all three in the same conversation, sometimes in the same hour. Most men don't even notice they're doing it. They think, I'm not being defensive, I'm being reasonable. She's the one who brought this up. And that's the trick of it. The protection feels rational, not like a reaction. It feels like you're being fair when you're actually reacting from fear. But here's what every one of those responses has in common. None of them are hearing her. She brought her fears, her concerns, her need for support. He's countering with evidence. She brought hurt. He's explaining why she shouldn't feel that way. She brought something unresolved. He's arguing that it should already be resolved. And from across the table, from the other side of the couch, she can see it. She can see the moment he stops listening, and she knows the conversation she was trying to have just ended. That's the part that costs the most, not the feeling. The feeling makes sense. You've been carrying that filter for a long time, but the pattern, the defending, the explaining, the withdrawing, the case building, that's what makes her stop bringing things to you. That's what teaches her it's not safe to be honest. That's what turns a hard conversation into a heavier night than it ever needed to be. The feeling within you isn't the problem. The pattern is. It's 2026, and if you haven't checked out my free Better Husband Secrets workshop, now is the time. Inside of it, I walk you through 3 key shifts that changed everything for me in my marriage and for the men I've worked with to lead more connected, intimate, and grounded relationships. You can watch it now at betterhusbandsecrets.com, and like I said, it's totally free. It's the clearest breakdown I've ever shared of what actually changes a marriage from the inside out and how you can be a better husband. So if you're ready to really do this work, go to betterhusbandsecrets.com or click the link in the show notes. Now, back to the show. So what do you do when you're in it? When your wife shares something real and you can already feel yourself starting to translate it, the first move is simpler than you think. You notice. That's it. You notice that the thing you're reacting to doesn't match the thing she said. She told you she was scared and you're feeling accused. She brought up an old wound and you're already building your defense. The reaction and the moment don't match. That gap is your signal. You don't have to fix it right then. You just have to see it. Oh, I'm translating again. I'm hearing criticism, but that might not be what she's saying. And once you see it, you slow down. You don't respond to the first thing your body is telling you to say. That first response is almost always the old reaction. If you can put even a few seconds between the feeling and the response, you give yourself room to hear what's actually in front of you instead of what the filter says is in front of you. Then, and this is the move that changes most conversations, you say what you heard right back to her. Before you react, you check it. What I'm hearing is that this still hurts you. Is that right? Or it sounds like you're scared about what's coming. Am I hearing you right? You're not agreeing or disagreeing. You're finding out whether what you heard is actually what she said. Because most of the time, what you heard isn't what she said, and saying it back gives both of you a chance to close that gap before the conversation goes sideways. And here's the part that most men skip. Tell the truth about what's happening in you, not as an accusation, not as a way to make her responsible for your reaction, just plainly. I can feel myself getting defensive right now, or I want to hear you. I'm just having a hard time not taking this personally. Even a statement like, I completely understand and I feel like it's all my fault, even though that's not what you're saying. And that's making me want to shut down, but I don't want to. That kind of honesty does something different. It keeps you in the conversation without pretending you're fine. It lets her know you're trying instead of shutting down, and it replaces the old pattern, defend, explain, withdraw, with a response that she can actually work with. You can also ask for help. After repeating back what you heard, you could say a line like, okay, I understand what you're saying. What would help you the most right now? Is there something you need to hear from me? None of this requires you to be perfect. It just requires you to be honest about what's happening in you before you let the old pattern run the conversation. And here's the part most men need to hear. You're going to miss it. You're going to hear criticism when she's bringing fear. You're going to build up your protection. You're going to shut down or explain too fast or say the thing you wish you hadn't. Even now that you can name the pattern, you're still going to get caught by it sometimes, probably more than sometimes. And that's not a failure. The failure is deciding that the conversation is over because you missed the moment. A lot of men do this. The night goes wrong and they harden around it. They double down. They go quiet for the rest of the evening and wait for it to pass. Or they keep defending their original response because admitting they got it wrong feels like losing. And by the next morning, what could have been a 30-minute repair has turned into 2 days of distance. Even worse, nobody does anything for weeks. And then the next time you go out together, the exact same moment happens all over again. Repair doesn't require you have gotten it right the first time. It requires you to come back. And repair isn't something you wait to feel ready for. It's something you practice. Coming back together is simpler than most men think. Before you go back to her, remember why you're going back. Not to prove you're a good husband, not to manage the situation, because she matters to you and this marriage matters to you and you want her to know it. It's 3 things. First, ownership. I wasn't hearing you earlier. I was reacting to something that wasn't about you and I took it out on the conversation. Then, cleaner language. Instead of explaining why you shut down, say what was actually happening. I got scared. I heard criticism and I know now that that's not what you were saying. That's different from you came at me too hard or I was just trying to help. Those are still defending. Clean language puts your experience on the table without making it her fault. And finally, a willingness. Can we try that again? Those 5 words carry more weight than most men realize because what they actually say is, I know I missed it. I want to hear you. I want us to come back together. What you're doing is cleaning up what happened so both of you can move forward. Think about the man from the story earlier. Same night, same topic, same relationship. He came back. And the conversation that broke them apart over dinner became the conversation that brought them closer before the night was over. That's what repair is, just coming back with open ears and an open heart. And your wife can tell the difference. She knows when you're genuinely trying to hear her compared to when you're just managing the situation. Repair doesn't fix everything in one conversation, but it teaches her that when things go wrong, you're the kind of man who comes back. And over time, that's worth more than getting it right every time. As always, let's close with 3 things: awareness, action, and accountability. Here's your awareness question for the week. Think about the last conversation with your wife that turned heavier than it needed to. Not the worst fight you've ever had, just the last time something she said landed wrong. What did she actually say? And what did you hear instead? And if you're honest about it, did you respond to what she said or to what you decided it meant? If you slow down and replay that moment honestly, the gap between those 2 things will show you exactly where the old reaction is still running. That's where your work starts. And here are 3 things you can practice this week. 1, the next time your wife opens up a tough topic and you feel yourself reacting, pause before you respond and ask yourself one question. What did she actually say? Not what it felt like she meant, not what the old reaction is telling you. What did she actually say? If you can't answer that clearly, you're responding to the translation, not to her. And that pause, even just a few seconds, is enough to change what comes out of your mouth next. 2, say what you heard back to her before you respond to it. What I'm hearing is blank. Is that what you're saying? This can change an entire conversation. It forces you to check whether you're hearing her or hearing the old filter, and it tells her you're actually trying to get it right instead of pushing her away. And then 3, when you miss it, and you will, come back. Don't harden around it. Don't wait for it to blow over. Go to her and say something honest like, I wasn't hearing you earlier. I got defensive. Can we try that again? Those 3 sentences are worth more than getting it right the first time, because what she remembers isn't whether you nailed the moment. She remembers whether you came back. And if you're listening to this and thinking, I do this, I hear criticism when that's not what she's saying, and I don't know how to stop it. Well, that's exactly the kind of work we do inside of Better Husband Academy. This isn't a pattern you break by thinking about it harder. It's one you practice with real conversations, real accountability, and other men who are doing the same work. The man from today's story, he was on a call with those men. That's where he named the pattern. That's where the change started. He was in a room with men who are working on the same things, and that changes what you're willing to look at. If you want that kind of support, a place to practice this, not just think about it, go to betterhusbandacademy.com. I'd love to see you in there. Here's what I want you to take away from this episode. Not every hard conversation is criticism. A lot of the time, your wife is trying to bring you something that's hard for her, fear, hurt, a weight she's been carrying for a long time. And the bravest thing she can do is trust you enough to say it out loud. Your job isn't to never feel defensive. That's going to happen. Your job is to notice when the old reaction starts running and choose not to let it speak for you. To hear what she's actually saying before you respond to what it feels like she means. And when you miss it, because you will, come back. That's the move that changes things. I just want to say thank you for being here and doing this work with me. You're listening to Better Husband. I'm Angelo Santiago, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, I have a quick request. If you've ever gotten any value from the show and you want the show to continue to grow, to access bigger and more knowledgeable guests, and to keep providing you with more ways that you can be a better husband in your marriage, simply leave a rating and a review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. It only takes a few seconds, and those reviews go a long way in attracting more experts and bigger guests to the show. So if you're feeling up to it, as a favor to me, I'd love to see a rating and a review from you. Thank you so much for being a listener and all your support.